Yo, what is good people? It is Thursday night. Time for Collecting Uncensored, the show where I sit there and bring on any kind of collector, mainly though comics. And we sit there and talk about their collections, try to do a deep dive in whatever kind of box they store their stuff in, talking like books they absolutely positively love, ways they collect, and yeah, just stuff that they enjoy to collect and how they like to collect it. Maybe some tips, maybe some tricks, things like that. So tonight's guest though is an awesome YouTuber. I freaking love his channel. He is nominated as finalist for several comic book community awards categories. We'll be talking about that, I'm sure, as well. Freaking amazing collection. If you have watched any of his stuff, you'll know he's got an awesome collection and finds books in strange and unusual places. Let me bring out Lunch Mike from Lunch Money Comics.
Very nice.
What's going on, man?
Well, I love it. He's the best, man. Whenever he goes on any show, you get that dance going. The guy's the best.
Yes. Thank you so much, man, for coming on and hang out with me this evening. I appreciate you.
Me, man. Thanks for having me. Yeah. Anytime hanging out with fellow community members and talking comic books is a good night. Thursday
right?
Night,
right.
Some great people in the chat too.
Right? Let's go say hey to them real quick. We have got, there's lots, let's go back up to the top. We got Mon Comics in the house, Brandon. I love Brandon. He's like one of my favorite people ever. Yeah. If Carl Childers isn't here to interview Mike, I riot. I don't know that Carl will make an appearance, Brandon. I'm sorry. I would not want to see him riot, though. That's a big man. Chop and Drop 2013 in the house. What's going on, man? Thank you for coming and hanging out. Appreciate you. Paul Rick, what's going on? Thanks for hanging out, Paul. Mr. Akins, welcome to the Thunderdome. Lunch Money. Nice. Larry L. Green Machine, like number 2. Howdy, everyone. What's going on, man? Thanks for hanging out. Appreciate the like as well. Thank you. Let's see. Anybody else in here? Nate from Hall. Yeah, Comics. Good evening, everyone. Hey, 22 and Mike. What's going on, Nate? Thanks for hanging out. Appreciate you. All right. I think we have caught up with the chat. I also want to congratulate you, by the way, on your CBC nominations. Your finalists on those. That's awesome, man. Best, favorite channel, best unboxing, and best ongoing series. Over 5,000 subscribers.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, actually. Yeah, thanks to everyone who nominated me. To be honest, it's one of those things I haven't really given much thought to. So I just was surprised when I heard that. I actually wasn't even watching the nominations. Brandon, Mon Comics is the one who told me. I was like, hey, get out of here. I got to jump on and see what happens. So yeah, it's very humbling. Again, a couple of those categories I'm sharing with Benny too, the comic historian, which is, it's an honor, very bittersweet,
right?
So
yeah,
I mean, that's a real comic YouTuber right there. So pretty cool. I'm in pretty great company, yeah, again, just happy to be nominated. Pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Well, I'm going to start this evening off like I start everybody off, and that is with collecting. Like, as collectors, especially comic books, we go through different phases, I feel like, and you can be more than one type of collector. You're a reader, cover lover, key grabber, things like that. What kinds of collector do you see yourself as?
Well, like you said, I mean, I think we're all several of those things, and of course a lot of those things overlap, but it does change and evolve. When I was a kid, I was a reader. I didn't have any idea of what value was to comic books, and I didn't even really care if I was like a completionist, although I always collected things as a kid. Got a little bit older, started doing runs, and that became down to once I'm invested in a title, I read it to the end. I remember the 2099 series were big when I started collecting, so I was really into X-Men 2099,
yes.
Gimli X-Men. So that's how it kind of started off. If you would ask me now, I mean, even as Lunch Money Comics, kind of funny. If you watch like my earliest videos, it's been 2 years now. I never stopped collecting comic books. I've always collected them. But hey, Dave, how you doing? But as but when I started off, it was stuff that I liked as a kid. I never had expensive books. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
yes, I acknowledged I had some books that were nicer, but I wasn't into like big key issues. But that became more apparent as I started really diving back in again. And certainly after Lunch Money Comics, where I was always hunting and finding these big key issues in the wild and those strange and unusual places. Yeah, I got a little bit of the itch for the bigger books that, as a kid, I couldn't afford. Now that I'm an adult with a disposable income, I can. So I think I became a little bit of a key collector. If you look behind me, that's certainly where it's sort of gone. Um, so I would say it's those. I mean, X-Men is my favorite, so I'm an X-Men collector. It doesn't matter what the book is. I think we talked offline a little bit. I'm not really a cover collector, but a cover can be a key issue just for the cover.
Yeah.
Also, I make an exception if it's from my boy Kurt Wagner. It's a cover buy because it's my favorite, right? I wouldn't say I'm a cover buyer, but come on, like if something speaks to you, you get it. So I think there's an overlap, right?
Right.
Actually, talking to my buddy Rohan, Absolute Game of Nerds, thinking of you got a second Silver Surfer #4, great cover. That's only a key issue because of the amazing cover, right? So is it a key issue or is it a cover buy? A little bit of both. So if I was to characterize myself, it would be I like the bigger books for my collection, long term. But I am a reader. Even the Silver Age books I get, I will read them when I get them. So I'm a little bit of both. I make sure I use them for their intended purpose. I enjoy them. I grow as much as I can, and then I put them on the shelf or in a box. So
Nice, nice. Well, and I think like some of that too. You were talking about cover lovers. I think you were showing off, Nightcrawler. I think some of that too is like a character collector.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
like at that point in time, is it so much that it's the cover, or is it so much more that it's the character?
Right. It's a character. I would say it's a character. Just like I'll collect any X-Men book. Like yes, I do. We didn't talk about runs, but yeah, there are some runs that I work on. But they're X-Men runs. It's because I love the team. So I consider myself an X-Men, a Marvel collector primarily. X-Men is the biggest. Maybe Spider-Man and Daredevil, second and third respectively, somewhere in there. They're always duking it out in my mind, which one I like better. But yeah, the different levels, I think, different tiers of how you collect them. But it's X-Men every day, all day, whether that's a key issue, a cover, or a character, it doesn't matter. I enjoy them.
What's your favorite team?
X-Men.
Your favorite X-Men team, though.
Oh, that's easy. That's the Chris Claremont, John Byrne, after the Dark Phoenix saga. You got, Cyclops, Wolverine, Storm, Colossus, Nightcrawler. Throw Kitty Pryde in there. I'm pretty happy. Yeah, that's your base team. You throw some more people in there, I'm totally fine. But that's the one. Those are my favorite stories to read. Is still going back to then. Soft spot in my heart for the early '90s. Jim Lee run, the animated series, of course. It just didn't have my boy Kurt on that team, which is why I liked X-Men '97 so much. They brought Kurt back in, so
Yes.
pretty much my ideal team right now, I guess.
What do you dabble in like omnibus at all?
So yeah, it's funny you bring it up. I don't do the omnibuses because I don't like black and white. I want them in color. So I do trade paperbacks. I'm willing to splurge, and I have a huge trade paperback collection. Yeah, so I read a lot of my comic books going back. I don't want to pick nice ones out anymore, so I'll go back.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that whole Claremont Byrne run, I've read most of it. Issue 94 to I don't even know where I stopped, but it's in the 150s, 160s, I think, that by this point. Yeah.
Do they do omnibus in black and white still? I thought they were color now.
You can get them. They're expensive, so I usually
yeah.
a little mini series. I haven't. I can buy a really nice comic book for that at the same price. Omnibuses are surprisingly expensive, so that's the issue. So I either get the black and white ones, and I just can't quite wrap my mind around them because they're a little. I don't know.
I agree. No, I'm with you now. I got you. That's funny. What do you think about? Because I know there's like 3 books going on right now. Do you read any of the modern X-Men stuff?
It's funny you bring it up because they're in a stack right next to me. So let's talk about modern for a second. Same thing. Before Lunch Money Comics, I was reading modern comic books, but it's also the thing that sort of turned me off from modern comics simply because I couldn't keep up. Especially the X-Men. I think, there were 5 or 6 titles. I had them on my pull list at my LCS. I'd go there every week, spend $20, $25 on all these books, and they would sit on a table in front of me. And I wouldn't get to them because I'm a busy dad. I have a real job. I'm always busy, and I just literally couldn't get around to them. And I felt like if I picked one title that I gravitated towards, I was missing too much. There were gaps, and I had to go back. And so I just, at a certain point, I was like, I'd rather just have that money go towards like nicer books I didn't have as a kid. That being said, I have kept up as best I can. You read online. There's a couple issues that will pop up. So right now I mostly read, again, trade paperbacks, or I'm really into indie stuff, which we should definitely talk about in a few minutes. But because we have the new From the Ashes, Marvel, all these X-Men series coming out, I said I'm going to try all of the X-Men titles, one or two of the first issues, see which ones I like the best, and pick only one or two of the titles.
Ooh.
So I started with the adjectiveless X-Men. I do not like the series. I do not like Stegman's art. I never have. Sorry. No, trust me. I've heard it from everybody. It hasn't grabbed me. That's all. The Uncanny absolutely has. This is my borderline ideal team right here. I love Nightcrawler and Gambit too. I mean, come on,
Yes.
bro. This is killer. I'm going to be buying this one. I haven't picked up this week's yet, so no spoilers here. Just got Exceptional X-Men, which starts off with a little Kitty Pryde goodness along with Emma Frost. So again, just got into this one. Not sure what I think of it yet. Surprisingly good. X-Force, I started reading. Again, I'm not a huge Deadpool fan, actually. I like him, but I don't love Deadpool. And They always shoehorn him into X-Force teams.
Yeah.
So I got a little nervous, but he's not. This is really about Forge, who's a character I really like. Low-key, very cool X-Men character. This one definitely did pique my interest, so I picked up a couple of these. And then probably the most delightful surprise was X-Factor, which is really funny. I really love the art in here. It's funny. It's a little bit dark. A lot of social media commentary, modern day. So I'm actually into this one. So other than the adjectiveless X-Men, which I think is supposed to be the tent pole, I'm actually into most of them. So maybe I'll get caught up. Maybe I'll be turned around. Enough people have told me I got to stick with it that maybe I will. But that's where I'm at right now. So I am trying them out, but there's no way I'm going to go every Wednesday and buy all these books. I'm going to pick probably one, maybe two of these titles and stick with them for a while. Yep.
Got you. Let's hit the chat up real quick. I do have some commentary on your X-Men books, though, when we get back. We got David here, Mark Spector Comics. What's going on, man? Thanks for hanging out this evening. Appreciate you. Nate says, it's a well-deserved nomination for Mike. Many of us found channels and started ours because of lunch money. Man, that is heartwarming right there.
Man, it's the best. Thanks, Nate. There's nothing
better than Neptune. Yeah. I apologize, what?
Nothing makes me feel better than that. Yeah, again, if you put out some content that makes anybody, think about their collecting differently, that's a good thing, right?
Right. Yes, absolutely. Beck Neptune in the house. What's going on, lady? Thanks for hanging out this evening. Appreciate you. Kenneth Bird, what's going on, man? Thanks for hanging out. Let's see. Here's a link to Lunch Money Comics. If you have not subbed him up, please go hang out with him. Go check out his channel. There's my honey. Hey, honey. Love you bunches. Let's see. Do what now?
Mrs. 22? My wife never watches my stuff, so.
She just hangs out in the lives.
All right. My wife doesn't even know where I am right now. She has no idea.
Christina Payne, what's going on, lady? Thanks for hanging out with us. Appreciate you. Comics embraced. Hashtag it sucks. That's funny. Appreciate you hanging out with us. X Factor was hilarious. Mark Russell is solid writer. All right.
Impressed. Yep, very impressed.
John's Comics with Kids in the House. Mike's collection is amazing. This should be a great episode. Right? Cliff on Comics. What's going on, homie? Thank you for hanging out with us this evening. Appreciate you. Mike, you stud.
So it's going to make me blush again.
Yeah, again. Cody with Where Did You Get That? Appreciate you hanging out with us, sir. Lunch Money Comics got me back for grabbing books after 40 years away. Wow.
That's awesome. Thank you. That's
wow.
Crazy. That's a good thing. Like that can go both ways. Some
right?
people come back in, they're like, why did I come back in?
Right? My wife only watches Colossus Collector.
I don't blame her, Akins. Don't blame her at all.
I was going to say, like, she's got good taste.
Absolutely.
Oh, let's see. Hello, Dave and Christina. That's one heck of a collection on your wall, right?
Yeah.
Right?
It's crazy. It's
pretty amazing. So back to the X-Men. I'm honestly with you. Like, Jed MacKay is my favorite writer right now at Marvel, and I think that's kind of a universal standpoint right now. Yeah, but his X-Men just, I don't know if it's the team, I don't know what it is, but it does nothing for me at all.
There was nothing that made me want to read the second issue. Like, there wasn't like a cliffhanger. I was just Yeah, I don't know. And again, I know the Stegman thing. Some people love Stegman; they'll read it because of him. I don't love the art. And I like McKay, but maybe I need to give it a better shot. But it did not grab me. I did not need a second issue, But
Right. I'll say this much: the artwork it seemed to improve for some reason, and I missed issue 2 completely. Picked up 3 because there was a Campbell cover, and then I read 3 because I bought it because of the cover, and the artwork was better, and I was honestly surprised.
and it's still Stegman.
Yeah, I'm pretty positive. Yeah, it was still Stegman.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I like how this like Juggernaut, like his Juggernaut, like the big splash pages, like he looks like a wrecking ball. It's cool. But other than that, I'm always like, not feeling it. His beast looks weird. I don't know.
His beast does look weird.
He does look weird.
He's got like dark circles and everything under his eyes, and I don't get
very,
it.
Like voluptuous lips for beast. It's freaking me out a little bit. I don't know. I'm going to open this up and confirm with my suspicions. Strange guy.
That's funny. What So another problem I have with it is I don't like Scott Summers. So how do you are you team Scott or are you team Alex?
Well, I like Cyclops. I mean, I've always liked Cyclops as a kid, but I mean, in recent years, I mean, by recent, again, aging myself here, I'm talking the last 10 years or so. I don't like the way they write Cyclops. I mean, they really leaned into the jerk. He vacillates between jerk and Boy Scout, right? It's almost like he can never decide what to do with him. He makes boneheaded decisions. Traditionally, I love Cyclops, one of my favorite X-Men. But no, I don't really love him. He's boring, and that's the worst thing you can do with Cyclops. Make him boring. Because everyone thinks he's boring anyways. So like, you got to do something exciting with him, and he does nothing for me lately.
I agree. I can't stand Scott. I can't do it. LOL, that's what my wife says. You're 66 and you're buying comics. Yes, I am. Hey, I'm not far.
Things you could be doing. Come on.
Right. Nate says his beast looks weird. Is that a euphemism?
Can't backtrack that one. This is live. So, maybe.
I like Cyclops when Claremont writes him.
100%.
I'll have to check that out. I've not read any, I don't think, Claremont X-Men. So, which honestly is a shame. I need to fix that.
The best. Yeah.
You said you were into some indies, reading some indies. You got any indies to show us that you're interested in?
I have a crazy one. So
crazy one.
Yeah, so I mean, normally, so I like indie stuff. I like graphic novels because I have no preconceived notions. I pick up an X-Men book, I have preconceived notions of what these characters are, who they are, how they should be drawn, how their personalities are going to be. That's true of any comic book character, storyline. If you pick up an indie that you've never heard of before, it might be a standalone story, it might be a continued thing. You have no preconceived notion, so you go into it fresh. And because of that, I found that they're pleasant surprises. In a lot of these cases, these are very talented artists and writers you probably have never heard of, just because they don't work for the big machines that are DC and Marvel. So I've been getting more into them. I also am a big fan of you pick it up and you put it down. You read it, you're done with that story, you're done. I'm not pulled into this like constant, I need to buy more and chase the storyline. I'm the same way with TV shows, honestly. People have told me, hey, it's a great TV show, you got to watch it. I'm sure I'll like it, but I don't want to get sucked into 3 seasons and 60 episodes. I don't have the time for it. So I don't want to get sucked into things, even though I like them. That's where I am. So I'm into the indie stuff because this is just a graphic novel. I'm going to read this one graphic novel and I'm done with it, right?
Yeah.
So I told Brandon, Mon Comics, this a few months back. Believe it or not, I got a random, the algorithm on the internet found, I think it was Men's Health. Never read Men's Health in my life, but it was a comic-related article on Men's Health. They interviewed people in the industry about their favorite comic books they've read in the last decade. And most of them were indie stuff. And there was one comic book that was on, they interviewed 40 people. Half of the people had this book on their list. And I had to pick it up. It's called My Favorite Thing is Monsters by Emil Ferris, right? And it is ginormous. It's huge. This is this woman who did this. She's an older woman. This is the first thing she's ever done. First graphic novel. She was actually partially paralyzed. She had some disease and it got into her spine, and she was in rough shape, and she had to basically rehab by drawing again. And you're gonna be careful. Cool. I open this up. I don't know how R-rated this is, but this takes the place. Basically, it is a notebook of like an 11-year-old girl in the late 1960s Chicago, a time of huge social change. Vietnam was going on, the draft was going on, lots of issues with race going on, obviously in the 1960s.
Yeah.
And that's the backdrop of this girl. Her mom is sick, her brother's in trouble with the law. But what's nuts about this is there's also a murder mystery is the through line. So there's a murder mystery with her neighbor. It opens up with that. You don't know what's going on, and you have all this stuff going on in her life. And this is her drawing her notebook at school. And sometimes the art is kind of goofy, like a little kid, right?
Okay.
Other times, it's the most incredible work of art. And what's nuts is this woman, Emile Ferris, did this with like a ballpoint pen. It's insane. It is I can't tell you if it's the best thing I've ever read, but I can tell you it's the most ambitious and impressive thing I may have ever read. I can't believe any one person could do this. It is sprawling in its scope. I'm just blown away by it. It's impressive. However, and Holly already has it. I got to the end of this. I actually picked this up like in March or April, flew through it. I told you it was a murder mystery. I was shocked when I got to the end, and you don't get a resolution to that. And a whole bunch of stuff happened. I'm like, wait, what happened? Found out that it was so big they had to break into 2 parts. Well, when's the second part coming out? Well, the second part came out 2 days after I finished it. So I got
nice.
Everyone else in the world had to wait 7 years between the 2. I only had to wait a few days. So I have not finished this, so I can't weigh in. But this is so complicated and so ambitious and incredible. I might do a whole video on like a review of this. It's the most amazing thing I've seen. And this is the stuff I'm into now reading because honestly, I love comic books, but a part of me needs a little bit more meat, a little bit more of that grown up in me. I need to read something a little bit heftier, but I still get a taste of graphic novel, right? There's still beautiful art in this. So this is what I'm reading right now. If anyone wants to, wow, this is a lot to chew off. You want to get into this, definitely go. So I will say there is some heavy stuff going on in this. There's abuse of all kinds in it. They go back to World War II and the Holocaust. I mean, there's some dark themes going on in this. It's all over the place. But if you can get past that stuff and it won't trigger you, I mean, I think it's something absolutely worth reading. It's incredible and highly recommended.
So you're talking about the meaty parts of it.
Yeah.
And needing more adult stuff. Does this book appeal to you because of the murder mystery aspect of it, or is it because it has like historical type ties to it as well?
It's funny because it's the mystery is what catches you. It's the hook, right? And it pulls you in.
Right.
And again, it's written from the standpoint of like an 11-year-old girl who's a tough kid going through a lot of really awful things. So that's intriguing in its own right, and that probably would have drew me in. But it's the history dovetailing with it again. It's the 60s. You're finding out about real things that were going on in the 60s, and it's flashing back to World War II and the 1950s, all that time in between. So it's pretty awesome in that regard. And actually, my wife is a huge history buff. I thought she'd like it. Then I got to the really dark stuff, and I gave her that disclaimer. But she did flip through it. She's like, it's the coolest thing she's ever seen. She's like, I can't believe how awesome this is. And I feel like for someone who does like meteor stuff, who thinks comic books are for kids, obviously I don't think they are, this is something I think that you could read and be like, well, that's literature. That is, that's something different. But it's also, I mean,
man,
the girl loves monster comics. So every chapter is a different monster comic as like the chapter header. There's a lot here for people of different genres and styles. It's pretty impressive. So, yeah.
Well, and even the cover to the second volume is that Wolf Boy, isn't it? Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, so this is actually, again, this isn't a spoiler alert. This is right off the bat. This is actually the girl who's writing this book. She sees herself as a monster. She loves monsters. This is how she sees herself. Once or twice you see her how she really is, like in a mirror. She draws herself like that. But otherwise, this is how she visualizes herself.
Okay.
She's got a lot going on, and she, people bully her and stuff. So again, so if you relate to being bullied and things like that, as I kind of was when I was a kid, definitely there's some there's stuff that hits home pretty hard there too.
Have you ever read the book Mouse?
Yes, I have.
Have you read both?
That was like a high school read for me. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, no. I read it in high school. They didn't make me read it in high school. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
I read it while I was in high school. Yeah, I wish. No, I wish that was cool. Yeah.
Right?
Mouse is a good one. Again, yeah. A whole dose of real there. Persepolis is another one of those ones where it's a comic book, but no, it's not. It's not at all.
Yeah.
I do like those. Again, I wouldn't say they're fun reads, but they're fascinating in their works. I think they're works of art.
I love the the viewpoint of Maus because it was from a Jewish perspective of the Holocaust instead of the always pushed on us like Nazi side of it.
Or even just an American centric or military centric standpoint, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I just like if you watch anything on World War II with on the History Channel or something like that, it's always like from the Nazi side or whatever. Like you never really get to see the Jewish point. So at least I don't. I haven't seen anything. So Maus was really cool for me because I was like, oh, this is like, I don't know, just getting that perspective, that viewpoint was fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah.
So. Let's see. My honey says, it's like the memes. I'm not worried about my husband cheating. I'm concerned about Mike from YouTube selling his collection and emptying our savings account. That's funny.
Not going to happen anytime soon. Don't worry.
Let's see. Paul says, that's how I feel about reading today's book after so long away. A lot of, wait, what happened?
There's a lot of that.
Renegade rants comics. That is awesome. I agree. Steve is in the house. What's going on, Steve? Thanks for hanging out with Steven. Appreciate you. Nate, I'd love to see a deep dive into my favorite things as monsters or a book club style discussion of it, Mike. Good stuff.
I've been thinking about it for a while. Again, when I started reading it, I was like, oh, I'm definitely going to do this. And then you get to the heavier stuff, and there's a big disclaimer there, like how much you'd actually talk about it. I would want it kind of be like a spoiler-free review, but right, do we want a deeper dive kind of thing? That's tough. I'm not exactly sure how I would do it, but it's something I'm definitely interested in because I think it's definitely a work worth discussing. I'd love to talk to someone else who's read it. Like I'm dying for it. I've mentioned to a few other people, maybe they'll pick it up and I have someone to chat with. So yeah, no, I want to get into it. It's pretty cool.
Me and Mrs. 22 have very different concerns about Mike. That's funny. Oh, good stuff. You got any other writers that you like as far as the indies go, or is that like your biggest one that you're just like, I love this one?
That's what I'm doing right now. I mean, I was reading a lot of local guys lately. There's so many where I live. I'm very lucky, here in Massachusetts. Again, big population density in general, New England, New York area. But I found oddly enough that like Western Mass, which is sort of like it's a lot of colleges out here. We have a ton of local and very impressive comic creators. So I've been getting a lot of theirs. I have some friends who work, who do that. And I found some other people through them. And yeah, so I've been reading a lot of local guys. And that's fun too, because they're people like I can talk to them about the work, like I read it. And there's been some cases where I read it and I love the art, didn't really like the story. And the guy was like, yeah, I was doing acid when I wrote it, like this, you get that stuff, you find out where they're coming from. Sometimes it's like, yeah, I don't know where that one came from. But sometimes there's a deeper meaning that I miss. So like, it's kind of cool when you can actually really, again, talk about wishing I had someone to talk to about this. With the local stuff, I could talk to the writer, that's really cool. So I can't say I have a favorite. I've been sort of all across the board. I got a big stack of stuff over here, stuff I haven't even got to yet either. I have so much stuff. I'm so behind.
Aren't we all?
Yeah, pretty much. I made myself sit down last night and read through. I had 3 comics last night. I mean, and you're in a bad space. You're busy. If you're dreading reading your comics, I have to read these. I was happy when I did. I loved it when I did, but getting to that point, it's difficult, right? When you have a lot going on in your life, there's a little bit of escapism. It was nice, but yeah, I just see the stuff piling up and it gives me anxiety, and then you don't want to read them, So you got to get past that point, I guess.
How do you find the time to read comics?
That's a darn good question. I mean, the short answer is I don't. Like I said, it's few and far between now. It's when I think of it, when I find those quiet moments, again, when everyone else is doing something. I try not to, as it is, Lunch Money Comics takes away too much of my time on the weekends. Early I'm out hunting for comic books. I'm up late at night as it is, editing and filming down here. So I don't want to take any time away from my family. So I always feel guilty reading if anyone else is awake. So luckily my wife goes to bed super early. she's up. We're like ships in the night. She gets up really early. I sleep kind of late. So I just read. Yeah, I find those times. I'd rather read than watch TV. I've gotten away from watching TV the older I've gotten. So I'd rather read, and that's what I do.
Do you find it hard sometimes to sit there and make the choice to, read something rather than watch TV or do some other kind of activity? Or is it more like that is the activity? That's what you do like to
No, I
do?
mean it's the activity everyone has is doom scrolling, right? I mean, it's like I could just go. I mean, I don't need a TV or a comic book. I just need my phone and Instagram, and I'm done. Like that's it. Like if I don't pay attention, there's the night, right? And a lot of it's good. I'm talking to people. A lot of people that are here in the chat. I'm chatting with them all night. It's great. I've made so many friends in the hobby. But man, you can if you're not paying attention, you can lose 4 hours on Instagram in a heartbeat.
Right.
Or YouTube,
Right.
right? I get sucked into watching comic book content. Not very hard. So that's the trade-off, right? It's that or anything else constructive. If I'm supporting my friends in the hobby, I don't feel like it's a waste of time. If I'm just scrolling through crap, then I feel awful. Yeah, I feel like I'm wasting my time.
Better set that screen time.
I do. I ignore it. It says time to shut down. Like, 10 minutes, so you're supposed to go to bed. And I'm like, skip. See ya. Yeah.
Richard, what's going on, man? Thanks for hanging out this evening. Appreciate you. Bryant with I Have Comics Issues is in the house. What's going on, man? Thanks for hanging out with us. Great idea for a t-shirt. Somebody make it. I'm so behind. Right? Right?
Seriously. Yeah, that would be a good
Do we
one.
put that on the back or the front, though?
Good point.
Isn't it funny that making videos about comics takes away from the time you used to spend reading comics? Pretty ironic.
But I still feel like I'm sharing them. Like in a way, I don't mind that because you're still. I'm not talking to anyone at the time, but I feel like I am talking to everyone. So it makes me feel good. I feel like I'm enjoying the comic book in a way by sharing with people, even if I don't have to read it.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. Yeah. Cool. What else you got? What else is some of your favorite stuff?
Well, let's see. Well, besides comic books, I recently did a basement tour. I showed off. I was dragging my feet for years on it. I collect a lot of stuff. I'm into a lot of things beyond comic books. I'm into Dungeons and Dragons. I'm into board games. I collect antiques. I'm a big history fan. So all of those things fight in my brain for my attention, which is fine. Comic books have been winning for the last couple of years, though. That's why Lunch Money Comics exists. Also, comic books are the safest thing I collect, like the most palatable, I guess. The most normal. So that's kind of why I went there, and then it sort of took off. Yeah, Aiken. Someone say D&D. Yes, I did. But otherwise, yeah, like I have like sub collections. So like, although X-Men are my favorite, there's little things I'm into. So like, I'm not a big DC guy, but I am into the Justice League dark characters. I like the darker DC characters. I've never been like a Justice League guy, so I've been collecting those. Little sub collections. Like I love Silver Age Spider-Man, ASM. I love Daredevil. So I have these separate collections. I collect the cosmic beings of the Marvel Universe, their first appearances. So when you're kind of dabbling in different, mini collections like that, it keeps it interesting. I'll never run the risk of being bored. Or if I do go to a comic show or a flea market, I'm going to find something that hits one of those. I might not find a good X-Men book I don't have every time, but I will find one of the other ones. So it helps to have a couple of different sub hobbies, right, within each one.
Right.
So, yeah.
Do you prioritize any of them over the other one? Like whether it be, I don't want to ruin anything with your room tour because that was a fantastic video, and I advise everybody go and watch it. It was super fun to see the stuff outside of comic books that you do. Freaking fantastic. But like, when it comes to like comic books, like, do you prioritize Spider-Man over Daredevil? And I would assume X-Men probably takes the cake over everybody.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the day of the week. I mean, it really does. What's going on? I mean, the thing is with X-Men is like, there's not much X-Men I don't have. So that's kind of the weird thing, right? So like, I'll always pick up a second copy, like if it's a book I like. But in general, it's hard. It's hard because like I have them all. There's not much I need there. So I find myself trying to fill the holes in the other ones more likely, right? So, geez, what am I into lately? I guess that's the question. Man, I've had a good year, honestly. I got a lot of my New Year's resolutions this year. I got an X-Men one this year. I got a Daredevil one a few weeks back. I mean, I've got some big ones. So I feel like I need to step back from the bigger books for now. But, it's only a matter of time, right? Something else will come up.
You also said at the beginning of the year, though, you're going to buy less, too. I don't know that that's
I'm a
happened either.
liar. I'm a liar. Yes, I did. Well, I said I was going to buy less quantity, and I screwed
Right,
that up. 'Cause I
right.
bought several collections,
Yeah.
which one of those, like, I did, but like the smallest stuff I've been selling, like dollar books and
Okay.
stuff. I don't mind that, and a lot of them I fill and run. So I don't feel like that was that bad. But I feel like for the most part, I've definitely gone for quality over quantity. I've definitely got some bigger stuff. I'd save my money up to be able to leverage the bigger stuff, trade little for big. I've been doing that a lot this year. So I think I was mostly true to my goals this year. Again, proof is in the pudding. I like what I have back there. It fills me with
Right.
happiness when I walk by. So
Yeah, I'd say you're killing it this year. I would say that.
yeah, it feels good. Yeah. I need a new target. The problem is the targets are getting bigger now, and it's like again, it's Lunch Money Comics. I grew up as a poor kid. I have a hard time justifying spending money on anything. And for someone who collects as much as I do, you'd think that's stupid. But yeah, no, I have trouble spending money for like really expensive things. I really got to get to a good place mentally for that. So I've no illusions, or I know how lucky I am and fortunate I am nowadays. To be able to have this sort of stuff, expensive paper, right? We are lucky in this country, and that we can have the stuff and talk about it. That's not lost on me at all. And I try to, but it's hard to convey that to your kids. Like, hey, Daddy got a $1,000 comic book. My son's like, that's cool. I'm like, that's not normal, right? Like, there's no concept, none whatsoever. So that's what I fear. So yes, so I have bigger books are sort of on the radar, but yeah, it's a love-hate relationship with those books, and I'm a lot of times I'm happier just picking up a Nightcrawler book, reading a graphic novel. Like, I'm just as happy with that as getting something big to add to the wall. So
yeah.
So
talking about the money aspect of it.
Yeah.
You've also traded though, like some really big books to be able to acquire some of these too.
Oh yeah.
So I assume you're a big proponent for trading your books to kind of equal out things, right?
Oh yeah, it's like one of my favorite things to do. Yeah, and especially where I find a lot of the smaller stuff cheap, flea markets, yard sales, whatever it may be. You get those little books, and if you can kind of trade them, they're worth a little more than you paid for them. You can trade those for something bigger, you win. If you ever trade small for big, that's huge. And I'm also a believer of the fast nickel. Like, I'll never sit on stuff for too long. I'd rather just move it, get the money back in, that you can put into something else. Mm-hmm. So again, lots of cheaper stuff. I'll have an extra box, a short box of stuff I'm always willing to trade. But if someone gives me a good offer, sure, take it all, cheap, give me the cash, work your way up. But trading, I know enough people in the hobbies that who wheel and deal. They know what I like. They'll be like, hey, I get this book for you, and I'll be like, I can either buy it cheap, or I want much stuff to trade, and I'll trade up. It makes you feel better to trade, right? Because you're not spending cash out of your pocket, and that feels like Lunch Money Comics spirit. That's the stuff I like doing as a kid. So yeah.
You think networking is the biggest thing that's helped you be successful in that?
Number one, not even close. Number one, absolutely. And that's what I say. My channel stopped being about the comic books. It's been about the people. The people in this hobby are fantastic. All the ones I've met, not just people online, but locally, I've met so many great people I didn't even know before, and I know so many people. Yeah, again, who are other collectors. It's funny how you all look out for each other, and like, hey, I got a book, and hey, you're looking for this, and you're always looking out for each other, and yeah, you end up with things. It's actually pretty incredible. The stuff you find. I had, again, a friend of mine I met at a store down the street. We hit it off. He wanted me to help him go look at a collection. There were two big ASMs, first Mysterio, first Kraven. Because I helped him out, he's like, you can have him for a cost, and like that doesn't happen unless not just knowing someone, befriending someone, right? I became friends with someone. I help them all the time. You help people out and you're nice and you treat people with respect, good things happen to you. I believe that karma comes around, and a lot of my books have a history where someone I know, someone I'm friends with, opportunity arose, and that's how I have it. And there's no other way, no other reason I have that book. Probably half my
Nice. I got a question for that, but let's roll through the comments real quick. Dan is in the house. Mike in the house. Dan, you need to get a channel.
You don't talk about that. Dan gets
Cliff Old Comic says he loves D&D as well. That's awesome. Thank you, Richard. Appreciate that. Smash the like button or type it lightly. That's fine too. Appreciate you. I always wanted a sub collection, but sub tops are tough to come by. All right. Let's see. Ask Mike if he still has his Wolverine costume.
I mean, I'm looking at it. So, yeah.
There you go.
Because I used it recently to wish Brandon Mon Comics a happy birthday.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I won't break it out yet. It's not until October. I can't do that. So
We're getting close, y'all.
I will soon.
Keep an eye out on it.
Yeah.
My wife asks, do you have any quote unquote pretty books?
What do you mean by pretty books?
So, she tends to like Greg Horn, Miguel Mercado, just really detailed, I guess, artists that draw like nice female covers. It's what it seems like she likes.
Yeah. I assume that's what it was. I do have some, for instance, just because my friends had it and they were going to kind of move on with them, like all of that, like that Poison Ivy run from the last couple of years, all the variant covers. There's so many incredible works of art just simply because they're gorgeous, right? Intricate. My daughter loves to draw, and she's also a big like nature kid. She's all about leaves and vines and mushrooms and toads and fairies. So she draws stuff like that. So even though she can't read that series because it's a little adult, just those covers really piqued her interest. So I actually started getting a lot of those just because she thought they would be pretty cool. I'm not one of those guys that like has lots of like the girly covers. That's never been like my thing. I do have some of them, but those are usually modern books. And because I don't usually have modern books unless I'm reading them, I don't naturally have them. I appreciate them. I love looking at them. I mean, especially a lot of the DC covers these days. It's just DC's killing it with covers. They're awesome. But in general, no, I don't have many of them. Good question.
Yes, you're right, Cliff. It did. I apologize. I have not corrupted you enough because that top joke went right through you. I'm sorry, Cliff. I'm sorry. I'm also trying to keep my composure as well. I'm over here and I'm drinking, trying to also be like intelligent with Mike. Okay, so forgive me for that.
Well, I didn't know we were supposed to do that. I'm drinking seltzer. I can fix that if you want.
That's up to you. Hagen told me to send you some liquor. He was like, Mike will always take free liquor. And I'm like, okay, sure, he will.
Yeah, I can help myself. That's fine.
Dan does need a chance. I agree, Cliff. I agree. We need to start this. We need to start hassling Dan because apparently everybody else has done it and worn out their welcome. So now it's me and you, Cliff.
I bet you Dan is the human being who's on YouTube the most who doesn't have a YouTube channel.
I think
he's up there. I mean, he's got to be up there.
I hope Mike has that Wolverine costume, right? Well, sad day. You've got a nice little collection, honey.
I do have those pretty books. I do have them.
So what my question was, as far as like you trading stuff like that, do those books that you've traded with people that you've made friendships with, do those mean more to you than other like books you may have because they have a story or because they came from that person? Yeah,
I think I've said this several times on my channel. Like for me, it's the story behind the book, right? Every comic book I pick up, actually everything I ever collect, I have the story, right? Like I know where I got it and when I got it. I have a pretty good memory for that stuff. And I like the story of how I got things sometimes better than the thing itself. I feel like just having it isn't usually enough. And I often use this as the case in point. I'll show it off. So I got this book.
Nice.
Right. So of course, Marvel Spotlight #5, first Johnny Blaze, Ghost Rider. I got this book almost exactly a year ago. I got it around Halloween of last year. And what was funny about it was I was kind of like day drinking at my niece's birthday party. It was like a Sunday afternoon. This popped up on IG. It was a good price. I threw a lowball offer. They accepted. And I got it. But that wasn't a very good story. I mean, it sounds funny now, but like I didn't trade for it. I didn't find it in the wild at a flea market. I didn't like sell something to get it. It didn't even show up in a video. I actually just did a quick short because I didn't really know what to do. I didn't make a big deal of it. But because of that, for a long time, I looked at this book and I felt nothing. I was like, it's a great book. I've always wanted it, but I'm like, because there was no story. It was just like, oh, I just have this now. Since then, now that I've had time to look at it and appreciate it, that's the story. I've told this story multiple times, which now this has a history. This is the funny book that Mike was day drinking at his niece's birthday party, got it, and feels nothing. He's dead inside. Well, now it's a story, so now I like the book a lot more. So You're absolutely right, though. For me, I need a story, and again, it helps that the fact that I have like a YouTube channel. All these memories are there, presumably forever. I don't think you can take them down. I mean, they're just there, right? It's on the internet now. It's kind of cool in a way because, yeah, those stories I get to share with people, and they're special to me. All these books, and other people kind of in some of my books, people remember the story, and that's really cool. The story how I got my X-Men #1. It's a cool story, and people have related to it. They like that video. That makes it even more special. So, absolutely, I need something more than just the book, or the antique, or the game, or I need something more with everything. So that's case in point. It's a great question. You're absolutely right.
I do think it's fitting though for you to feel dead inside about a Ghost Rider book. So
there you go. Yes. I should feel vengeance. I should feel like anger. Yeah, like
yes,
revenge.
That is a fire cut. That is a fire label. I love that with the Ghost Rider at the top.
Oh yeah, the custom label. Yeah, I have a sweet spot for those. I don't know. I'm a sucker. If it's a good one, I always like them. They're cool.
Me too. Yeah. The Spider-Gwen one was such a disappointment, honestly.
Some of them are just bad. There's a new Wolverine one. It's the Hulk 340 version of them. Did you see that new one? It's ugly. Like it's bad.
Oh really?
It's like a lot of his body. So he's just like a brown body. Like it's just weird. Like you got to check it out. It's just bizarre that they made that decision when they put it on. There's stuff like that. I'm always like, nah, I would never do that. Another one like there's a Black Panther one. Okay, so I have a first Black Panther somewhere right behind me.
Yes,
I could have got the custom label for it, but I didn't because it's the famous one of him. I think it's is it a John Byrne cover? What's that cover? Maybe we see him where he's in front of like a brick wall. It's a cool piece of art, but I don't like the brick wall. It looks weird. It would have been cool if it was the one on the first, on the Fantastic Four 52. So
like with him with the moon behind him, yeah.
That should have been that, but instead they did the brick wall, and it's just like simple as that. Like the brick wall bugged me, so I didn't get it. Like it's sometimes they speak to you, sometimes they don't. I know it's nitpicky, but yeah, hit or miss.
So the Spider-Gwen one, she's like swinging through the air, and it looks really cool. But then when you get it, there's a giant holographic sticker over half her freaking body.
Yeah, it's bad design. There's a lot of stuff like that. Yeah, that they just cut off the main cool part about it. Yeah.
Like, put the sticker on the back. Do me a favor.
Or just it over, like so it's not
something.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. My wife asked, "What's the drawing over your right shoulder?" Do you have a drawing over there?
Which one? Or this one?
I'm not sure.
I can grab them all. So right there, this one, I can't really take it down. So that is a print done by Arthur Adams. This is your early 80s, mid 80s X-Men. Signed by Chris Claremont and Arthur Adams. I got a Terrificon last year. So that I had framed up, nice museum glass by my buddy. So that's what that one is. This one I just got. This is from my good friend Travis. Comics Limited did a Nightcrawler for me.
Travis,
killer. And the one below that, also custom art of Nightcrawler by Big E McFly. Brian did that. So
nice.
Yeah.
Yes. The duo right there. That's an awesome duo.
Yeah, definitely.
Mr. Akins says, "What's that menu behind you, Mike?"
Oh, you want me to talk about the menu? Of course you do. Hold on. I knew someone was going to bring that up. This year's Terrificon, it was really cool because we sort of organized it that a lot of us in the community would become friends online. We all made the pilgrimage out to Terrificon. It wasn't far from me. It's, it's a little over an hour away. Not a big deal, but Terrificon's a fantastic show. These guys came from all over the country. Akins came from Alabama. And because you're in the casino, it's the Mohegan Sun Casino, and everyone stays in it, it's cool because you have lots to do outside of the show. You hang out, you go out to eat. And so do the comic book people, right? So all the artists and writers are also there. I mean, you'd ride down the elevator with Al Milgrom. Hey, what's going on? 2 days in a row, we went down for breakfast. Actually, 3 days for the guys who stayed there for the third day. Walt Simonson came down. We just asked him, hey, you want to have breakfast with us? And he said, sure. And 2 days in a row, we hung out with him. It was amazing. On the last day there, he was with us. Ricky from All Sorts of Words had the idea to commemorate us all hanging out with him, and especially our trip together. He grabbed the menu of the breakfast place we were at, and we passed it around. Everyone signed it, including Walt Simonson right there. So,
wow.
And they decided to give it to me. So I'm not going to hold on to this. This is going to be like the Stanley Cup as a lot of these guys, like big things happen in their life, I might send it off to one or two of them. We'll pass it around. I can't possibly own this really cool thing all by myself, but pretty special. Coolest thing I got at the show. Yeah, just an awesome way to encapsulate the entire weekend. So one of the coolest things in my collection, no doubt.
No, that's awesome. That's super. And then, like, again, the story and the memory that goes along with that. So
100%. Yeah, and there's Aikens right there.
That's
there you
funny.
go, Aikens. Yeah, pretty awesome. So hey, who knows?
Awesome.
Next year we'll have some other shows. We're eyeing. I mean, I'm always going to go to Terrificon because I live close. It's in New England, but we're eyeing Heroes Con next year. Anybody wants to go to Charlotte, we can find another place to eat, find another menu, and invite.
So are you doing Heroes?
To hang out with us.
Is that what you were saying? You're doing Heroes now?
I think I am. Yeah.
Nice. A lot of people are going to that, so I've been thinking about going.
Yeah, it's. I mean, people rave about it. Everyone I know who's been says it's like Terrificon but bigger and amazing. So yeah, thinking of going.
I've heard it's got the best comic selection out of all of them, is what it seems like. So
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Cool. Here's somebody Chris the Comic Vet says, "What up, fam?" Mike, fresh from his only slap appearance, right?
Yeah, I was just over with Rob, Fat Stacks. It was just funny because I always say I'm not a slab guy, despite the stupidness you see behind me. I prefer Rob books. So when he first reached out to me, he's like, "Oh, you need like 25 or 30 slabs." I'm like, "I don't know if I have that many." Oh, I do. I have more than I thought I did, but. It was kind of cool because because it's Lunch Money Comics, I don't like to talk about the expensive books. I like to talk about the stuff I find and cheap. It was kind of nice to like reflect on my good stuff. But because of that, I did put some stuff out today for you, 22, and I tried going slabless. I tried picking out some of my better stuff that just hides in the boxes. So I was going through there. I'm like, I forgot about these. These are pretty cool. So I can show that stuff off. So it'll be different than Rob's channel.
Yes, let's start showing those off.
Oh, you're right. Well, let's see. So, for you X-Men fans, I talked about X-Men, so let's start with these. I collect first appearances of the X-Men, of course, and besides the really big books, there's some lesser-known X-Men that I don't think get enough love, and neither do the books. So, I found this actually in a pawn shop. This is First Banshee. Pretty low-grade book, but very cool. I always get a kick out of the fact that Banshee does not look like himself. In these first early issues when he flew, he kind of looked scary. He was actually kind of a bad guy in this, so... we got First Banshee, always a classic book. We have X-Men number, I'm going out of order here, 49. First, Lorna Dane, the first Polaris. Also very awesome Jim Steranko cover. You got Mesmero down here, also his first appearance. Very cool cover. I also have X-Men, you can't see it in the glare, X-Men 50. Steranko signed it this year for me as well. Another cool book, but this is the first full appearance of Polaris and Mesmero.
I have to pause you for a second.
What?
So, a lot of people like that 50 over that 49.
I knew you were going to say that. Yeah.
Okay. So, are you a Hulk 180 or a Hulk 181 guy?
For a cover or for first appearance?
For first appearance.
It's 180.
Yes! Yes, I totally agree. I totally agree.
181's the better book.
Absolutely. No, Market has chosen that one. It's got the most. It's got the better cover.
It's better in every way, except it's not his first appearance. No. No. But there is a debate over, perfect example. Everyone always says 50 is the better Polaris book to have. I know, my friend Rohan, Absolute Game of Nerds, thinks this one's better. I'm actually on the fence. I love 50, but this book, the more I look at it, it's pretty slick. It's a pretty cool book. And my sister's actually looking for this book. She's a Polaris fan as well. We're out in the Rose City Comic Con in Portland. I couldn't find an affordable copy of this book, so I'm keeping my eyes open for one of these for my sis. So, and even she said she likes them both. She's going to get both, but that's the one she wants because it's the first appearance. So,
educate me on 49 because all I've ever known is 50, and I've not seen the inside of either one of them. So, what's the appearance, the equivalent to in 49?
So this is Polaris's first appearance. So she was one of the first notable new X-Men characters, in the Silver Age. So that's her first appearance. Also, first appearance of Mesmero, this guy right here. He's not actually that big. Artistic license on Steranko's part. Basically has the ability to kind of mind control you, which he does to Polaris. So this is not only her first appearance and Mesmero's. It's the last time you see this trade dress because I'll get up and get it. Hold on. You're making me do anyway. So this is number 50. This is the famous cover with Polaris on the cover for the first time. Jim Steranko again. You see signed mine. But this is the first time you have the classic X-Men trade dress. So
yeah,
he did one cover like this, said, I don't like it, went to this, and obviously it has stuck.
nice.
So that's the two. Usually same thing. Which one's the money book? It depends. Do you like the pretty girl on the cover? Or do you like the weird cover that's the actual first appearance?
Right. So is her appearance though in 49 like is it a one panel deal or is it throughout the book?
No, she's definitely in it for quite a bit of it. Yeah.
That's crazy then that 50 commands such a higher premium it seems like than 49.
People just love the cover. It's a great cover. It's very cool, greens and yellows, and it's a girl on the cover. People like that. Very similar situation. X-Men 54.
Yes.
First appearance of Alex Summers, Havoc, Cyclops' brother, right? This is his first appearance. I think it's the first appearance of the Living Monolith too, right? Is it?
I think so.
Yeah. So this is right here. So this is his first appearance, but he doesn't become Havoc until 4 issues later in 58. And here you have the Neil Adams, very cool cover. So same thing.
Right.
Which is first appearance? Well, first appearance of the person, this. First appearance of the superhero, this. You need them both. Simple solution. You get them both.
Right.
That's always been the way, right? Richard Westfall's asking like the impossible question.
Yeah, I was going to hold on to that one. But now that you see it, you have time to think.
I can do it pretty quickly, but we'll wait. We can wait.
It's up to you. If you can name them off, I don't want you to lose any.
Well, I'm not going to count Professor X. He's a bonus, right? Or Magneto. One of those two guys can be the leader, but I'm not counting them. If you're picking 10 guys, you pick the original 5.
Okay.
Giant size, right? So you got Cyclops, Iceman, Angel, Beast, Jean Grey. Then you have Wolverine, Storm, Colossus, Nightcrawler. What's the 10th one? I had to pick one. I'm going to pick 2. I'm going to cheat. I'm going to pick Rogue and Gambit. Then I'll drop Angel. How about that?
Oh, nice. I like it. Rogue can fly anyways, so you're good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Solid.
I'll change my mind tomorrow.
Brian asked, do you have the entire collection of X-Men?
Not everything. So I have the whole Chris Claremont run. And I have almost everything from like 94 up to 500. I'm only missing like probably 15 issues in the high numbers of the junk from the 90s I missed. Thanks, Ryan. I almost took Colossus off, by the way. Never. I did pick up the Death of Colossus the other day at a yard sale where he ejects himself with the legacy virus. It's kind of a sad one. What was I lost my train of thought there for a second.
We're talking about your X-Men collection. How?
Oh yeah. So what I want to do is go back now and get the first run, number 1 through 66, before they started doing the reprints. So I do want to do that eventually. That's long term. I'll eventually do that. But yeah, then I'll have like 1 through 500. I don't need to go higher than that.
Gotcha. LOLs. Let's see. Nate said he'd bring up Dazzler.
Man, I knew he was going to do that. Kitty. I have a hard time keeping Kitty off the list.
Who's that? Who said that?
Cliff said throw Kitty in Dazzler.
I thought you were going to put the Kitty in there because like when we were talking originally, you were like, Kitty Pride's always a good bonus. So I was like, you were at 10, and I was like, I would assume Kitty. So you threw me off there with the Rogue and Gambit.
But I like it. We'll just keep cutting people. I can't do that. I said, it depends. That's why the X-Men have so many teams. Like you need separate teams, gold team and blue team, man. That's the way I liked it. So.
Oh, nice. Yes.
I'd read the hell out of that team. Like, come on. No Wolverine in Cliff's team, which I don't hate. I don't hate it. Wolverine. There's too much Wolverine in X-Men books.
Yo, that new number 1 Wolverine, that was a good book. I know you didn't show it as far as like your stuff, so I don't know if you've read it, but
I haven't got there because Wolverine hasn't like left on his own in whatever from what I've read. So I haven't got there chronologically yet. I don't think I have. So I was waiting until that point to figure out when he's separate. I don't know. Maybe it isn't. Maybe it's not. It's a separate storyline. I don't know.
I kind of wonder if it was like a prequel. I don't know. I haven't read 2 or 3 of the Uncanny X-Men, but it was solid first issue, and I only picked it up because it was the Negative Space John Tyler Christopher cover. So,
Cool.
thanks, Colossus Collector, for hanging out with us. Appreciate you, and Dope Comics in the house as well. What's going on, man? Thanks for hanging out.
Yeah. All right, let's stay on the new X-Men, guys. So we got first Sunfire.
Yes.
Very cool. I traded for this book, actually. I found some randomly at a yard sale whenever I go. Normally, if I see something that looks like they might have comic books, like they have toys or action figures, I'll always ask, hey, do you have comic books? Sometimes they say yes. Well, this guy, I was talking to an old timer, he was drinking like Budweisers at like 9:30 a.m. at this yard sale. Last guy in the world. I mean, he had like tools outside. I don't know why. He just asked me, hey, what are you into? They're looking for something. I said, well, I like comic books. I doubt you have those. And then he told me a story of how his dad owned a convenience store in like the 70s. And he said he did have some comic books somewhere. We exchanged numbers. He called me back. I ended up finding 3 She-Hulk #1s, Savage She-Hulk #1s, a whole bunch of other stuff. I paid him a fair amount.
Yeah.
Traded a couple of those for this at my LCS. So it worked out. Again, never, always ask, guys. Always, it doesn't hurt. You'd be surprised how many people have comic books in their basement or their attic.
There's your tip. Always ask.
Always ask. Before I get into the villains, because we just talked about Kitty. I'm not a Kitty hater. So there you go. First Kitty Pryde, first Emma Frost. Is Dan still on here? Dan's X-Men Comics owns like every variation of this comic book that exists. He's got them all. He's got, newsstand. He's got, direct. He's got the Pence copy, I believe. I think he has a Mark Jewelers. I mean, he's got every version of this.
Oh, he was showing those off on IG the other day. Yeah.
Yeah, he did. He's got a great collection. This is a great book. This is an underrated key book. Come on. You have 2 major X-Men characters in here and the Hellfire Club preview. And it's the start of the Dark Phoenix saga. It's the first issue of Dark Phoenix. Come on. This is an awesome book. And a very cool book. Where was it? I got to move on my menu. So I don't just collect the X-Men, though. I collect the X-Men villains as well. Anybody associated with the X-Men. So we've got Iron Fist #14, first Sabretooth.
Nice.
I got this one on eBay with credit card points. Trying to stay frugal. So there you go. Pretty cool. Got it really cheap. And then first Mystique. First Nightcrawler's mom, first Nightcrawler's dad, technically. And Ms. Marvel #18, also Chris Claremont, Dave Cockrum, goodness. So yeah, pretty awesome right there. So first Mystique, full appearance of Mystique right there. So
what do you think of the retcon of Nightcrawler's parents?
So I actually don't think it's a retcon, and I'll tell you why. Because Chris Claremont, that was always his original intent. And he said it for years. And it was Marvel. I don't know who it was at the time. Maybe Jim Shooter. I think it was Jim Shooter said there's no way you can have Mystique and Destiny be his parents. Like, we don't do that. They heavily imply that they were a couple, but they couldn't outright say it. So I think it might have been Jim Shooter that shut it down. But that was Chris Claremont's. That's how he always thought it was in his headcanon. Then years later, they had the worst storyline in X-Men history. Chuck Austin, the worst X-Men writer of all time. Even as I read that story, I knew they were going to retcon it. I'm like, this is so dumb and so bad. This can't possibly stick. And they tried keeping it around for a decade or so, but I knew it was inevitable. In this day and age, sensibilities are different. Someone would want to realize Claremont's original idea, and they did. And I liked it. Some people didn't like it, but again, when you look at it through the context, that's what Chris Claremont was thinking when he wrote Nightcrawler back in the early 80s.
Yeah.
You can be okay with it, right? And it's actually, I think it's really cool, actually, honestly. I think it's pretty neat. It's interesting.
Okay.
It's different, right?
So Azazel is the retcon. Interesting. I didn't know that. You learned me something.
Yeah. Well, now he is a retcon. So they've retconned Azazel. It's just, they kind of like, it's stupid. I mean, they do have to like go through some mental gymnastics to like get around. Why does he look like Azazel? Oh, kind of because Mystique was with Azazel and it mentally imprinted his DNA because she's Mystique. Or maybe she changed into Azazel when she was, doesn't matter. Don't think about it too hard. It'll just screw you up. Yeah.
That's funny.
And the last villain I'll show, this is a slab book. I apologize. So this is a 9.8 first Omega Red. The reason why I want to show this off is I got this on Whatnot for like $60 because it was like 9 a.m. and no one was on Whatnot. $60 for a 9.8 of a X-Men villain. Come on, had to do it. So.
Yeah, that book for Raw was going for $50 there during Winter Soldier. Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So.
Ryan asks, does he have a CPV?
What is that?
Yep, that's what. What's that, Ryan? What are we talking? What's going on here? Let's see. We got one other question I did not want to pass by, and this is by Steve. He says, "What's the coolest book you ever found in in the dollar bin?"
Oh boy, I found some doozies too. I mean, well, not technically a dollar bin, but like I've told the story of I found a really rare Archie from 1949. I paid $5, actually less than $5. It was like $4.50 because they gave me a deal, and it's one of a kind. Like there are no other ones ever, no evidence of one ever being sold. Like you can only ever find a reference to it like in an Overstreet price guide. None. It's a one of one. I had it graded. It came back as a 9 point. I already forgot. 9.4. 9.2, I think it was. It came back as, and I sold it for almost $4,000, and I bought my X-Men #1 with it. So it wasn't a dollar bin, but it might as well have been. It was at an estate sale, and it cost me like $4 and change. So that was a cool thing I ever found.
Crazy.
Yeah.
I love how you documented that too, by the way, on your channel. Okay. Just you picking that book up and like looking through like all the stuff to try and figure out what it was, the grading process, like all that stuff is documented. It's really cool.
Like I said, it was a story. It was a great story, right? Everything along with it, trying to find it, going to the community to get more information on it, getting it cleaned, impressed, and graded in the auction, all of that stuff, and the culmination being that was cool. But I thought it was an important one to tell people because people look at their Grail books and say, that's not obtainable. I can never get that book, right? Or they're always going out hunting and they don't find anything and they get discouraged. Yeah, guys. I mean, for instance, this past weekend I went out to like 3 or 4 yard sales and a flea market, and I didn't buy a single thing, comic book or otherwise, anything. There'll never be a video on that on Lunch Money Comics, and that's the norm. I mean, I go out all the time and I find nothing, but the trick is persistence. You do it over and over and over again, and sometimes you'll get lucky, and that's when you end up with these things happen to you. You just got to keep at it. It will happen eventually. Like law of large numbers, eventually you'll find some good stuff. So just keep looking. Right.
So you sold that book on Heritage, didn't you?
No, it was Comic Link.
Comic Link.
Yeah.
I haven't had experience with Comic. How was your experience with them?
Excellent. Yeah, it was actually pretty crazy because Rohan, Absolute Gaming Nerds, and I was kind of floating out who to go with. A lot of people told me Heritage. I'd probably get the most money for it, but I think it was Rohan knew Steve Borak, who's actually one of the founders of CGC and CBCS, right? Before he went, now he's in charge of Comic Link. And he kind of knew him, and someone had mentioned it to him. Anyways, randomly I'm working, and my phone, unknown number. I don't answer it. There's a message. I listen to it, and it's Steve Borak. Called me out of the blue. Hey, I heard about your book. We have a big auction coming up at the end of the year. We want your book in it. So he called me, and he walked me through. He's like, you're going to have to make a decision quick because we need to have the book, to take pictures, in 3 days. So I had to kind of make the decision fast. But, yeah, whole way through, it was a really great. I probably didn't get as many eyes on it as Heritage would have gotten. I probably would have gotten more, honestly. But they didn't take a lot of money from me. And, again, the customer service, honestly, couldn't be beat. The owner of the company calls you out of the blue. What are you going to say?
Right.
I had some questions. He answered all my questions. He was a really sweet guy. Yeah.
Well, and honestly, I don't know if you watch Comic Investments on YouTube or not. David.
I know he is, though. Yeah, I've never watched David.
He actually had like a one-of-one Usagi Yojimbo book here recently, and he debated on whether or not to sell it on his auction site or if he should sell it with Heritage, and he went with Heritage, and he'd actually gotten better offers through his auction site than he wound up getting through Heritage, and was like really upset about it. So I wonder if a book sometime is too obscure for Heritage.
That's exactly it. And the good thing was, so people had reached out to me. We found, I went to Archie collectors. I put in feelers. A lot of people. I had people spread the word. I had several big Archie collectors. So that's really all you need. That's the only people that collect this. Several people reached out to me and gave me offers. And that's what made me nervous because I turned them down. I'm like, I'm going to roll the dice. And one big collector at an auction doesn't help you. You need two, right? You need two. But it's funny because one of the people I was asking about all this, getting advice, was Ryan from Automatic Comics. And Ryan was one of the bidders. He actually told me he bid on it and he was hoping he'd get it. So I did have a couple people. I did get nervous though. For a couple of days there, I was like, oh man, we're not going to hit it. But it was fun. It was an experience. And I knew that it was worth the gamble. whatever. It was free. It was house money at that point, right? Completely house
Right.
money.
But say if you got $5 or more, or were able to cover the fees, then you came out with $5. You were in the good.
Yeah, plus the grading, so I needed like a couple
Oh
other
yeah,
things.
yeah, yeah.
But
Gotcha.
yeah, pretty much. Yep.
Ryan says Canadian price variant was asking if Dan had the 129. Don't worry about it.
Oh,
Well, I've already read the don't worry
yeah.
about it now.
Sorry, that's not Canadian
All right.
acronyms. I mean, actually, I don't know if he does. That's a good question for Dan. I'm curious. He should.
Cool.
I got one more X-Men book. Yeah, this one's in front of me. I forgot I had this under the pile. So.
Yes. It's my favorite.
Good. It's in plastic. Sorry. I mean, you can't really see it. It's glary. But yeah, I mean, I had I kind of wanted 9.8 of this book. I love Gambit. I've had several copies of this book, but I got a crazy good deal on this one. So it was just kind of fell into my lap. Had to get it. So I ain't complaining about a 9.6. It looks exactly like a 9.8 other than the label, right? So
I kick myself to this day because, I don't know, 4 years ago or something like that, I had the opportunity of buying like a 5 or a 5.5 of that book for like $55,
Ooh.
$60, and I did not pull the trigger.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm like, damn,
I've seen
I want that opportunity back.
Before
So
the comic
bad.
boom, I would see them for like $40, like all the time. Oh, it's a $40 book is how I looked at it, right? And if it was ever more
Yeah,
than
yeah.
that,
Annual 14 or 266.
266 all day, every day.
Really?
Same thing. So that one is actually, I think people like to argue about this one, but I feel like this one is actually clear cut because why is chronology always the determiner, right? So, and the reason I say that one was not intended. That was a publishing error. So, I mean, it wasn't supposed to be out. That's the thing with that one. So, it shipped first.
Okay.
It wasn't supposed to. 266 is first in story. If you ask Chris Claremont, he says it's 266. He's like, 14 wasn't supposed to be there yet. So that's how I look at it. I just ignore the fact that it was a few weeks different. Yeah.
So let me ask you this then, as far as Spider-Man Black Suit, Secret Wars 8, or I believe it's Amazing Spider-Man 252.
See, that's a great example, right? Because Secret Wars 8 technically takes place before, even though it came out after. But no one ever says Secret Wars 8 is the first appearance of the black suit.
Right.
Because but it wasn't intended as so. So I guess that's the distinction, right? And if you read, the annual 14, I mean, it's not a cameo either. I will argue with that. It's not a cameo. Gambit's in it a lot, like a real lot. He has like 10 lines of dialogue. He's in 20 minutes. It's not a cameo. But it's clear, like, you're supposed to know who he is. Like, if you actually got that comic book off the rack as a kid and you were reading it, you'd be like, who the hell is this guy? Like, this doesn't make any sense. It's not supposed to be there. So it's in continuity. Again, if we were talking, like, years apart or, like, a year apart, sure. 14 gets it. But it really was a shipping issue, publishing thing. It went out the door early. That's why I consider that one to be the one sort of exception to the rule.
Okay.
It's an interesting one, though. It's an interesting one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I already showed enough X-Men books, right? Enough stuff for you other big X-Men fans. This is a fun one.
Yes.
Everyone loves that book. This is important because my favorite book as a kid was actually this. So this is Classic X-Men number 44. And that's because this is the last issue of the Phoenix Saga where Jean Grey is dead. Spoiler alert, she dies. Many times. She comes back every time. Sorry, everyone. But what's so cool about this is Cyclops at the funeral is reflecting on all of the X-Men's history. And you get to see everything from when, they joined Xavier's school, fighting Krakoa, the giant-sized X-Men team joining. Everything was in this book. The thing is, this is a reprint of that last issue, which is right here, number 138. But I couldn't afford these books as a kid, so I collected the classic X-Men because I got the stories for a quarter. I could find these as a quarter bin in my LCS. So this is my most read comic as a kid, right here, because it was told the whole story of the X-Men. I didn't have to own all the comic books, and I didn't. So, yeah,
that's an awesome cover too. Like I've never seen that cover. That cover's awesome.
Yeah, who is this? I should know this. Is this? Oh, geez, I should know this. I can't.
Mr. Akins was crediting Art Adams. So is that an Art Adams cover?
It's not a signature. Interesting. Okay. Someone will come up with it.
I agree.
Yeah,
That was on a bunch of the She-Hulk books too.
Well, it's either this or the bike, right? You get the bike all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
First Rogue has the bike on it. Because I feel bad and I keep talking about X-Men, I say I'm not a huge DC guy, but I like those darker characters. One thing that really piqued my interest was the Justice League Dark. So this came out as part of the
Nice.
New 52. Again, although there's been iterations of the darker characters like Swamp Thing and the Demon and Constantine and stuff, this was the first time they actually called them Justice League Dark. And not only did I start reading this and liked it, but I saw it's a cartoon version on HBO. It's like an R-rated cartoon. Has everyone's ever seen that? It's a couple of Justice League Dark movies animated.
Yeah.
Awesome. They're
Yes.
awesome. So I decided I would take it upon myself to start collecting those first appearances of the Justice League Dark characters. And I see several of them back here. First Deadman, first Alec Collins Swamp Thing, first Zatanna top there somewhere. I got first Black Orchid. But I don't often get to show off all the ones I don't have slabbed. So we get to show this one. This is Swamp Thing. First, Constantine. Wanted to show it too because you guys probably heard they're making Constantine 2 with Keanu Reeves is coming out. Although he's not really Constantine in my mind at all. He's not a British guy. He's not a British dude. He's still Keanu Reeves, and I'm still going to see the movie, right? So first, Constantine. Yes, Renegade. Yes, they are awesome movies.
Right. Yes.
In that, for that New 52 run, the first volume of Justice League Dark, who puts the team together? Madame Xanadu. So this is Doorway to Nightmare #1. Awesome. Love this. Was Mike Kaluta cover, I believe, right?
Oh, I don't know. But I think that's one of the most underrated books ever as
100%.
far as DC.
100%. Awesome book. Had to pick up this one, of course. One of the weird things that comes up, though, is that a lot of the DC characters, unlike the Marvel ones, go back to the Golden Age. So I can't get the first appearances, really, of the Spectre. So I got the Silver Age Spectre right there, right? First Fate of Stranger. Detective Champ. Not going to find him, right? It's not going to happen. So in those cases, what I do is I look for the Silver Age appearances. So that's the case here. Yes. Justice League of America #21 is the first time the Justice Society meets the Justice League. And we get first Silver Age appearances of Dr. Fate and Hourman. So I had to have that.
I think 22 is better, but I may be biased.
Okay, that's fine too. Yep. So I traded for this one, so I'm happy with that one. We get some obscure ones. Shade, the Changing Man, is technically in the Justice League Dark for some issues. Bizarre character. You can find this book in dollar bins, and I have.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Same with this one. Legion of Superheroes number, I don't know what number this one is, 298. This is actually the first appearance of Amethyst.
Oh, cool.
World, because it's actually like a preview kind of. Debatable, right? So, and she was in at least a couple of those. It's a couple that she joined the team for a little bit. Weird, quirky DC character. Happy to have that. And then one I got recently, and I love talking about this on the channel, DC Comics Presents number 35. Multiple stories in here. The first, cover story is a team up of Superman and Man-Bat, which is actually really cool, going up against Atomic Skull. Fun read. Second story is whatever happened to Rex the Wonder Dog. Rex the Wonder Dog was a character from the 50s in the Golden Age, and in the 4th issue, Rex the Wonder Dog #4, we're introduced to Detective Chimp. This is his first appearance after the 1950s. So in a weird way, kind of his first modern appearance of Detective Chimp. I ain't getting Rex the Wonder Dog #4 anytime soon, so this is my sloppy seconds. Which
I've got to get that book.
Yeah, it's cool. This is a cool book. It's so silly, too, because the dog and the chimp are trying to catch bad guys, and they end up in Florida, and they stumble onto the Fountain of Youth. And then at the end, they're like, oh, we're so young and we're immortal because they drink from the Fountain of Youth. Because it's comics. Right?
Detective Chimp and Solomon Grundy are like my two that I'm like, I've got to find some kind of Silver Age, Bronze Age, something of their first or whatever of those books.
Silver Age Solomon Grundy is a great book, and that's one that's been on my radar. That's a showcase, right? Which number is that?
I have no idea.
I can't remember the number. I think it's a showcase, and that's a great book. So on my list. Had a chance to buy that one several times and haven't. Do one more couple weird things here, if you don't mind. Do you have books to show off? I don't want to interrupt.
Oh, no, this is all about you. This is about you and your collection.
Okay. Richard. All right, thanks. Richard, what are my thoughts of the X-Men in the MCU? like, or would them like them being made in a separate studio? No, I'm fine with the MCU doing it. Again, you just have to have the right person doing it. I think you need someone who has a passion and really understands the X-Men. The problem with the X-Men in general, and again, I love them, but the problem with the X-Men is, and you see that in the new series, it's the same story over and over again. That's sort of their shtick, that they are marginalized, right? They represent all of the marginalized people in the world. They can fill in for whatever you want, and the rest of the world hates them. The problem is, over time, if you keep repeating that over and over again, it doesn't make much sense in a world that is not only, in theory, getting better and evolving, but you have superheroes everywhere. Like, there's superheroes all over the place, and there's not much of a distinction between like Cyclops and like a Captain America. They're both superpowered guys. They're both leaders. What is the difference? It's not like they're ugly, horrendous creatures. So that doesn't really work, and I think it'll work even less in the MCU, where we've already established that the superheroes are all going to be beloved no matter what. I think it's going to be a harder sell. So I'd be curious to see how they spin that. Are they going to go for the main angle of the X-Men, that they are reviled by society at large? Maybe. If they can pull it off, that's fine. Again, you got to have the right people doing it. That's not always an easy thing to pull off. So, yeah, I'm all for it, but, I'm going to be picky. I'm going to be a very harsh judge. That's true.
What do you think, as far as when those movies were coming out, what did you think of the portrayal of Nightcrawler in X2 compared to his portrayal in the latter series of him being younger?
Yeah, I mean, this is a tough one because, again, X2 is like my favorite X-Men movie, and it opens up. That opening scene is, I still think, the best X-Men scene.
Right?
It's amazing.
Yes.
It's incredible. And I recently watched X2 again with my kids, and I didn't think it would hold up. It totally holds up. It's a great period. It just really is. My problem with all of the Bryan Singer X-Men movies is that very few of those castings I thought were perfect. They're all okay, that's an interpretation of that character. And as much as I love the actor, and I'm blanking on his name, who plays Nightcrawler, he wasn't Nightcrawler to me.
Okay.
You need, where's that comic? You need a gymnast to be Nightcrawler. He needs to be incredibly limber and agile, and you need to see that side of him. He needs to be fun and swashbuckling. He was very dour in that film. That's fine. They went with the religious angle. That's fine. But he didn't have the appearance of a gymnast. He didn't have that lean, lithe look to him. He needs to look almost a little alien, in his design. And I never quite got that. Other than that first scene, he moved great. He moved just like Nightcrawler would. But after that, I didn't really sell it. So that's me being picky because I love the character. The later iteration, again, I'm blanking on the kid's name, closer to Nightcrawler, still not quite. They make him sort of a fish out of water, really awkward. That's not Nightcrawler. Despite the fact that Nightcrawler looks so weird, he's the friendliest one. He's the best personality, and I don't think they've captured that in any of those films quite yet.
What is it about Nightcrawler that has made him your favorite, that you've kind of latched onto?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of that. I mean, again, the idea between the X-Men and the mutants is that they are reviled as these freaks, right? That's the idea. They're freaks. They're mutations. The problem is that doesn't hold water when all of the X-Men characters are objectively beautiful, and they all are. They're all, a few cases. Wolverine, yeah, Wolverine's short and hairy and ugly, sure, but Cyclops and the Gambit and Rogue are they're Storm. They're gorgeous people. It's hard to sell that those people are reviled. I mean, we all know how superficial the world is. But Nightcrawler is different because Nightcrawler is, he exemplifies that. I mean, he looks like a demon. I mean, he's terrifying. Yeah. Kitty Pryde, when she first meets him, for the first couple issues, she's terrified of Nightcrawler. Despite the fact he was abandoned by his parents, raised, raised by a witch, and it was in a circus, literally as a circus freak. Despite all that stuff, he has a heart of gold. He has a very strong religious background. He's still the best friend of the X-Men. Even someone as grumpy as Wolverine, Nightcrawler's his best friend. I mean, he is the heart and soul of that team, despite the fact he absolutely he should have the biggest chip on his shoulder because he's the biggest freak of them all, but he's not. He exemplifies everything good about the X-Men. And again, I point out God Loves, Man Kills, seminal work by Chris Claremont. It's the best X-Men story I think ever written. The zenith of that story is, Stryker, when they're on national TV, they say, mutants are people like everyone else. He points to Nightcrawler and says, how can you call that thing human? And the irony is Nightcrawler is probably the best human on the whole team. So that's why I like him so much. And again, maybe as a kid, that was it was a short little guy. I got made fun of a lot. I was I was a grungy kid. I was really poor, didn't have nice clothes. I got made fun of and bullied a lot, but there was that part of me that says, yeah, but I know that I'm a good kid. I know I'm a good person. I want to be a good person. That's Nightcrawler to me. He's ostracized by society at large, but he has a heart of gold, and I really related to that, despite not having a tail and being blue. I wish I did, honestly.
I like it. I like it.
So
Richard agrees with you by saying, giant-sized X-Men personalities are polar opposites from their powers. Storm powers equals chaos, Wither is chaos, but her personality is calm. Nightcrawler is ugly. And Nightcrawler equals ugly, but a beautiful personality. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Colossus, same thing. Colossus is a man made of metal, seems impenetrable and hard, but he's not. He's incredibly nice as well. He's a good family man, loves his sister, right? That's sort of the thing with all of them. Yep. Yeah, great pickup. There you go.
Cool.
Yeah, exactly. So, So there's my DC stuff that I was going to show. The last thing I was going to show off because they're just so weird and wacky. I also like the cosmic beings in Marvel. I love space in general. I'm a big astronomy buff. I love the idea of those characters, especially where I love the Marvel cards as a kid. Big fan of the Marvel cards. These kind of got me into Marvel really when I was a kid. You guys know these. So I have all these cards from when I was a kid. And in this series 3, I like to collect the first appearances of the characters in the cards. But in series 3, we have cosmic being cards, right?
Oh, cool.
So what I love about these is, they have stats on the back. And because they have stats and they're gods, their stats are through the roof. So I started collecting their first appearances as well. And a lot of them will go back to the Silver Age. And they're fun books to collect. This one helps. It's an X-Men book. First appearance of the Stranger. Pretty cool.
Okay.
I love this cover too. This ominous facade in the background of this building. I just always got a kick out of it. It's a weird cover, but I've always dug it. Yeah.
What number is that? I've never seen that.
11. It's number 11.
Oh wow, nice.
Yeah, one of my favorite.
That one didn't get enough play.
Yeah, it's cool. You get it pretty cheap nowadays for a low numbered X-Men book. First Collector.
Okay.
Avengers number 28, Collector, everyone knows, played by Benicio del Toro in the MCU. There you go.
Is that the first Goliath too?
It's the first time he takes on the name Goliath, even though he's been Giant Man before, they call him Goliath. So first new costume in name, but still Hank Pym.
Is that I was gonna say, is that Hank Pym or is that Hawkeye? Because Hawkeye becomes Goliath at one point too, doesn't he?
Yeah, no, Hawkeye's in front of him. So it's first Hank Pym in the new costume being called Goliath. Yeah. Gotcha. Ego Living Planet. This is a cool read, by the way. This is neat. So this is Thor 133. It's cool. Ego's cool. I don't know. And I thought they did a pretty good job with him in the MCU. It's Kurt Russell. I mean, you can't go wrong with Kurt Russell in general, but this is neat, actually. It's a cool read. There's
a color misprint as well for that book.
I've never seen it. I know what it is. I've never seen one in person.
I want one. Like that's one of my goals. They did Hela so dirty. I know that's different than Guardians of the Galaxy, but talking about, how they did certain villains good and certain ones bad, like I agree with you. Like I think they did Ego really well, but like Hela, they totally like botched, I feel like.
I mean, it was a very campy movie, and she's a pretty hardcore villain. So
right?
They thought they made her appropriately dangerous. I mean, she's one of the most dangerous, I think, characters we got in the MCU as a bad guy. I mean, she seems unstoppable. Good job there. I love Kate Blanchett too. Don't get me wrong, but yeah,
she's seen enough play.
Yeah. Maybe she was squandered. She could have stuck around for a little while longer. So, next up. First Eternity.
Yes.
So there's 2 stories in here. We have Strange Tales. We have Agent Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., and then we also have a Doctor Strange. So this is 138. Doctor Strange meets Eternity in this one. So and we saw a very bad version of Eternity in Thor: Love and Thunder. That was a disappointment.
There's lots of statues in there alluding to other characters though that were pretty cool right before that.
Yep, and we also got one of them right here, Living Tribunal. So this is Strange Tales again, 158, same thing, 2 different stories. This is the first full appearance and cover appearance of the Living Tribunal. He first appears in a panel or 2 in the issue before this. That's the first cameo appearance, but this is the one that's really cool with the really crazy art. Oh God, Blake, who did the art in this one? Is it Stranko? No. Let me know in the comments. I'm blanking, guys. It's getting late. Someone's got to know who did the art of this. It was pretty cool.
I thought
And
it
I
was
don't know if
Stranko, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, and I don't know if I'd count this as a cosmic being or not. First, a nihilist. Also,
Nice.
Franklin Richards, who might as well be
Yeah.
just as powerful as a cosmic being. I got this out of my great aunt's attic. You find comic books
Wow.
on this one. Yeah, Stranko on the cover, Ryan. You're right. That's Stranko cover. Did he do the art on the story? Is the question. Don't remember. But yeah, so first a nihilist. Very cool character. Character that I think you can get a lot of mileage out of in a movie. I mean, depends how you do him. I think you can't play him straight. He's a bug guy from an alternate dimension. So I don't know how you sell that, but talk about having like hordes of disposable bad guys to fight. A nihilist is your guy. Bug aliens, come on. And Franklin Richards is a very cool character, obviously. So very cool character. This is a Fantastic Four annual #6 classic.
Well, and Franklin Richards is rumored to be coming to the MCU as well in the new FF movie. So
I heard that recently too. Yeah, also made me want to take it out. And I have one more, and because your wife asked for pretty books, I don't know if this counts as a pretty book. Depends who's looking at it. All right, here it is. So, is a Dave Stevens cover, and because Halloween's coming up, because it's already in every store, everywhere you go. A lot of my girly Dave Stevens ones I have moved on from. I kept all the Rocketeer stuff. I don't have to have the girly covers, but this one's different because not only is it an amazing Halloween-themed cover, there it is.
Oh.
Signed by Dave Stevens. And I
cool.
got this from guys who knew Dave in life and were friends with him. And so that's what made this kind of special. So
wow. That's awesome. That's a good cover too.
Yeah, it's a great cover. You get the one of the pumpkins is actually like a severed head, so it's kind of cool. So,
That's cool.
So yeah, this is the only girly book that I brought, but I figured in the spirit of Halloween, because it's a cool cover and it's Dave Stevens and he signed it, I thought it'd be a cool book to kind of show off. And it is pretty risque. You're right. That's why I have moved on from a lot of my girly books. My wife can't see all of these, so.
That's funny. Oh, well, cool. I'm trying to think about. I felt like I had another question. Now I'm blanking. But what? Okay, here's what it was. What's your favorite Justice League Dark character? We kind of glossed over that real quick.
Wow. Same thing. Day of the week. Deadman has I've always has a soft spot in my heart. I love the look. Like I said, I love Neil Adams. I love all those Neil Adams issues that he did. He made Deadman. I think Carmen Infantino is the one who invented him, in the first appearance. But Neil Adams took over immediately. Love his style. I love his look. His name is Boston Brand. I'm from Boston, so I love everything about Deadman. He's a funny character, and he's such a weird character, such a weird power set. He's not like a character that can just be like OP. He has to use it in very ingenious ways, taking over the bodies of other living people. It's just so strange. He always has an interesting role to play. Every time I read a book, I'm like, what is he going to do in this issue? Is he just going to hover around as a ghost and talk to people? What is he going to do? I've always gravitated towards him. I love his design. I'd probably pick Deadman. I mean, I love Constantine and Swamp Thing, but it's got to be Deadman.
Yeah. Okay, so because you're a Deadman fan, I want to pitch this TV show idea to you, okay?
Ooh, all right.
And I feel like we're in the same age type demographic where you'll understand where I'm coming from. So hear me out, okay? Boston Brad is after Gentleman Ghost. For what? I have no idea. But that's Boston Brad's the bad guy. No, Boston Brad's a good guy. Deadman's a good guy. And Gentleman Ghost is a bad guy, and he's after him. In this Quantum Leap type TV show. That's all I got.
Oh, I mean... Okay, no, I was like, okay, go on, yes. Then, no, I mean, I like the Quantum Leap reference. I love that show. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, I wonder how old it would get. That's the only thing you got to be careful. Like, how much can he actually do? I feel like that's the thing. He can't actually do much by himself. That's why he usually does better with somebody else.
Right.
Which is why they start pairing him with not just other Justice League Dark characters, but like you see why they bring like Wonder Woman in that second iteration of Justice League Dark. You need some like bigger, heavy hitters. Can't always just be Swamp Thing. So he
Right.
usually is relegated to supporting cast because I think he's a hard character to be like the main character, right? So,
Right.
so yeah, I mean, I'm always for more Deadman. It's just that you'd have to have him with somebody else, right?
But see,
Phantom
that's
Stranger,
why I was like,
I love Phantom Stranger, but like you can't do just Phantom Stranger is the guy who just shows up with this weird, creepy stuff, right? Spectre, same thing. Spectre's a god. I mean, so although it would be a really cool story about his origin, once he becomes a Spectre, you don't have a movie anymore. He's basically the Living Tribunal at this point, right? He's like Doctor Strange and Living Tribunal combined. He's too powerful, so they got to be supporting characters with a lot of them. So it'll be interesting to see how they use them. Yeah, but
see, that's why I went the Quantum Leap route, because you
Yeah.
could just mix it up with different people per episode. You can make it a 6-episode thing or something. It doesn't have to
You'd
be
have to like a
long.
murder mystery or something like so a hook for every episode.
Yes.
Quantum Leap, what made it work was it was different times, right? Not
Right,
only
right.
You had to do, but they could go anywhere. The kind of the Doctor Who MO. You can be anywhere and play. You know, like you never run out of ideas. You know, Dead Man would be tough because you can't bounce around in time or space. So you'd have to just have it be like, well, I don't know what the through line would be, but yeah, I mean, I'd be all for it. Yeah,
It's a cross country race. He's after Gentleman Ghosts across the country.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Like
sure,
it.
whatever.
The Amazing Race.
See, I would want to pair him up with Constantine, but I feel like Constantine is like the Batman of the Justice League Dark. Like everybody, you know what I mean? Like I feel like Constantine gets overused, even though I really enjoy the character.
He does. I mean, I like the fact that he's so acerbic. You know, he does not really a hero. You know, so I think that works for him. I don't feel like like, even though he is like the main hero, he's not a traditional hero. So that's why I don't mind it. Swamp Thing, I love, but again, he seemed superpowered thing. Swamp Thing's like ludicrously overpowered. So
Right.
so same thing. Like he's good in small doses when you need help on the side, but that's why it's difficult. That's why I think Justice League Dark changes like the main characters so much, like who they're following. Who puts the team together? They have people coming in and going all the time. That's why I feel like they have a hard time keeping like one central team. Detective Chimp worked. I mean, Detective Chimp works as a character because he's so silly and he's not super overpowered. He's a chimpanzee. It's fine. You can throw him next to Wonder Woman and Man Bat too. Man Bat's a cool character. It's like they're not overpowered and they're weird and quirky. Wonder Woman's overpowered, but you can relate to her at least a little bit. So
Yeah.
I can go on all day about this stuff, but yeah, it's Deadman. He's just a tough character to use.
I agree. Richard asks, are you excited about the new DC movie direction or Miss Snyder?
I'm excited for it because it's different than Snyder. There were some things I liked that Snyder did, but most things I did not. You know, I don't think he understands Superman at all. He had like I liked Man of Steel. Like, I actually enjoyed watching the movie at the time. But, like, he doesn't get Superman.
I think he was I think he was going too much of making Superman that Jesus character because of how many references were made in Batman v Superman.
But he was a kid raised in Kansas. I mean, he's, that's the thing about him. He's super powerful, and other people would see him that way, but he wouldn't act that way. And I feel like he kind of did, right? They leaned into it a little too much.
Is James Gunn's the answer?
So I'm looking more forward to James Gunn's version, just because it's different. I don't know if it'll be better. I hope it is.
Old version or new? I assume that's part of the Quantum Leap. Is that what?
I've never seen the new Quantum Leap.
I haven't either. I didn't even know they made a new Quantum Leap. I think I would just go back and watch the old.
Yeah, I love the old, man. When I was a kid, that was the best show.
That was something I think I watched with my grandma.
Again, it's like, if you like history, like my wife loved that show too, because it's like, you can be anywhere in history. It's very, very cool.
Yeah.
And Scott Bakula, man, that was great. That was a show. Did he ever get home? I think he got home at the end of that series, right? I think hopefully he made it back.
Oh, I don't know. I think it's like Alf. I kind of wonder if they just shut it down and like.
Oh, maybe, yeah. I did like Alf too. Oh boy, yeah.
Cool. Well, Mike, do you have anything else to show off? I think you got to your last book, but
I
I
have
wanted to make
tons of stuff
sure.
around me, but I don't need to show them all off. That's fine. We can do this all night. I'll show one more, because it's in front of me.
Yes, do it.
All right. I talked about this somewhat recently. So,
Ninja Turtles.
I live in New England. I live in Western Massachusetts, which is the home of Mirage Studios, which is 2 towns away. The Turtle guys, they published all the early Turtle stuff right out here in the Pioneer Valley of Massachusetts. All these guys are from New England, and all of them still live here. So I see it all the local shows. I see the Turtles guys. In fact, I couldn't make it. The New Hampshire show they just had, they had Eastman and Laird were there. And we find, all the time, and we find Turtle stuff. People push back at me in this and like my comments, but they're wrong. We find a lot of Turtle stuff out here, again, because it was so local. I find it all over the place. There are weird variants that they did where Eastman and Laird printed off the first version, 100 copies, didn't like the color, changed it. Those first 100 copies are super rare. Like that's out here in New England because that's where they were printed and made. Well, one of those people that worked on those early Turtle books is Michael Dooney. He actually lives pretty close to where I live. I've gotten to know him not only at local shows, but blew my mind when he emailed me out of the blue and said he watched Lunch Money Comics. Talk about having a moment.
Right?
Yeah, pretty crazy. He's into certain types of comic books, which I find when I'm out and about hunting. So whenever I find certain artists he likes, I usually send them to him or I drop them off at our local comic book store. He'll pick them up. He always leaves something nice, a little sketch, or he'll give me a comic book. Last time he gave me some stuff to give to my sister, who's a Jean Grey fan. Well, he did at my local comic book store, he did a signing and he did variant. This is a sketch cover he did of the new Ninja Turtles by IDW, #1. So I wasn't around. I couldn't be there. I just said, oh, give me a Raphael. He gave me a Raphael. I wish I thought more about it. Some people did Casey Jones. Some people actually did Fugitoid, like April O'Neil. Some deep cuts. I wish I thought of it. He gave me a Raphael, but what was really cool about it, he also threw in a little bonus thing for me on the board. So again, I'm very lucky in where I live in New England. Not only is a big population density out here, obviously, but a lot of history, a lot of antique places, lots of consignment shops, flea markets, and lots of comic books, shops everywhere. So I'm very lucky. The area I live in helps the whole hunting in strange and unusual places where I have so many places to hunt. But it also helps that there's really cool people that live nearby, and it's a small community. People don't realize how small the comic collecting community is. So I've made friends with Michael Dooney, and he gives me pretty cool art. And there you go. So it's been hanging out on my wall behind me, and it's pretty neat. So
that is awesome. Let's see real quick. This is an awesome show. Could listen to you guys talk about comics and movies for hours. Please sub both guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
22. I'll have to do it again, man. We'll do it again sometime.
Absolutely. That'd be fantastic. Does Laird come out a lot in Massachusetts area?
Not that much. Eastman does. Kevin Eastman we'll see from time to time. Peter Laird I don't see as much. Oh wait, I have it backwards. I'm backwards. I see Laird more than Eastman. But
really?
Yeah. So funny thing is too. Who was it? Who was it? I'm blanking who it was. A few years ago at the Western Mass Comic Book Show, he just showed up. It was Laird, I think. Just showed up out of the blue, unannounced. He thought it'd be fun to drop in, and everyone went crazy. The other Ninja Turtles guys were there, but he was bored because he lived nearby and swung in. It was pretty sweet. That stuff happens. It's kind of cool.
So I've got this piece behind me, and then I've got a poster as well. I've got to make a trip up there apparently because I've got to get Laird. That's who I'm missing. It's Laird. Yep. I've got Eastman. This piece right here, I've got all the animated voice actors for pretty much, but I don't have Laird, so I'm gonna have to make a trip up there and see Laird.
He's around, he's around. Yeah, they don't get out much. It's not like their shut-ins are all, but they're retired, so they corroborated on the last Ronin, so the little things like that pop up. But the other guys like Dooney and Lawson are still actively working, so you see them all the time at these shows, signing stuff. But those other guys show up. And there's a lot of Turtle fans. So for me, because I only really knew the cartoon and the video game growing up, I was a little too old for the Turtles, like the cartoon and stuff and the toys. But the comics are awesome. And I've definitely, because of the local connection, I've started to like them more, especially the early stuff. So I've become more of a Turtles fan because of the local connection, because I know these guys. Which is something that's new. That's in the last couple of years I've really dug into it. And I'm actually kicking myself. Earlier this year, I traded my TMNT #1 first print, which I found in a flea market. I traded for first appearance of Loki. Great trade at the time, but I'm starting to regret it. Now I'm looking for another copy of TMNT #1, any printing. So I'm kind of mad at myself, but hey, I'd love to have Eastman and Laird sign that. So
That's what I was going to ask you next, because we were talking about the Turtles. I knew about that trade. Is it what outside of the Turtles, or if the Turtles is it? What's your biggest regret that you got rid of, like you traded away?
that is hard. Luckily, I haven't traded away too much stuff that was expendable. Like I keep the stuff I want, right?
Yeah.
Little thing, like honestly, the ones I regret the most, are the ones I didn't really know about. There's been cases where I've had like a short box of stuff where I'm like, oh yeah, there's some good stuff in there. I'll trade this, and then later on, I'm looking for a book. I'm like, oh man, that was in there. That's happened a couple times. Nothing like expensive, but like stuff like, oh, that wasn't supposed to be in there. That's happened a few times. Where I was kind of mad about that. Yeah. Yeah, again, I'm not super mad about that trade. Like, I'm happy to have first Loki. I'm a Marvel guy, right? It's the first appearance. But that book, again, the story with that book, I found it in a flea market. Like, that's pretty crazy. I had it cleaned and pressed by my buddy. It was a nice copy. I was thinking of getting it graded. But because I want to get it signed, I never got it graded. And then, it just kind of fell in my lap. Thought it'd be a good idea. And then, nope. Yeah, I regretted it. So, oh well. That's probably the biggest one.
I got you. Well, is there anything else you want to show off, Mike?
No, I'm good. Like I said, we can do this all night, but people gotta go to bed.
Well,
I don't. I'll
appreciate
be up till
you.
2 a.m. Editing videos, but hey.
Right. What do you got coming up on your channel?
Let's see. So, on Monday, I'll have another video, which is my last day in Portland, Oregon. So I went out, visited my sister, and I went to the Rose City Comic Con, and it's a ton of people in our community, several of which were on down in the chat that are in the Portland area, who I met up with. And on that last day, I went hunting locally with Big B McFly, the comic guy, brought me around to some comic book places.
Yes.
And we actually stopped by. Do you know Collecto 6, Steppo, Steven?
Yes.
We stopped by his house. And let me tell you, that guy has the best comic collection I've ever seen in person by a mile. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. And he showed me 1% of what he has. And he's into a lot of the antiques and history that I have. So I stopped there, and the guy gave me probably the nicest gift, rarest gift I've ever received. So stay tuned for that on Monday to see what I got, because it was a pretty special time hanging out with some pretty great people. That's coming up. Otherwise, I get some hunting to do. I'm a little behind on my videos. So same old strange and unusual places.
Nice. Cool. Well, in my neighborhood, I've got, let's see, coming up next on Collecting Uncensored. Actually, this is not next. We had Hagen 2 weeks from this evening. And then this is you this evening. So there's that. But next up is Nate from Hall Comics. So excited to talk to him about his collecting habits, and just, tips and tricks he may have. Awesome guy, awesome channel. You should definitely go check him out. And come hang out with us 2 Thursdays from now to hang out with Nate from Hall Comics and check out his collection. So, other side of that, Maya, I appreciate you so much for taking time out to come out and hang out with me, people in the chat, and just get and cut up about your collection and whatnot like that. So thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us. I appreciate you.
Anytime. Thank you for asking me. I wish I saw more of your collection. I love your stuff. You have fantastic taste. You have really nice books too. So
you're
going to show off some books. So I'll have to watch some other videos to get my taste of 22's comic collection. But no, I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. All right. Well, again, appreciate you all hanging out with us this evening. Appreciate you, Mike. As always, y'all have a good one.